Hey everyone, welcome back to another homeschooling video. I'm super excited to get this one to you guys. Finally, if you watch my channel mostly for the homeschool content, sorry it's been a long time. If you haven't seen that I've been posting lots of baby updates because I'm pregnant, so if I'm out of breath, sorry, I am just leaving my first trimester, so now that I'm not sick, I can start to return to some of my normal content that I was really excited to get to you guys, but it's been a little while and I just haven't been up to filming, so I'm really excited to be back to talking about lots of other things as well. And this is our year-end review of the grades we just did in our Blossom and Root curriculum. So if you are looking into Blossom and Root, potentially looking for a new homeschool curriculum, if this is your first year homeschooling, I have been doing these I do like a midway update halfway through the year and then a year-end update for how I liked each grade. This really helps people who are trying to pick curriculum. It can be a really big decision to choose curriculum that you're going to pay for and buy and use for the year. Curriculum really varies. You just have to pick something that suits your family, and that can be really difficult because sometimes something looks really good on paper and it turns out that it's like not actually a good fit. So I find videos like this super helpful, so hopefully this is helpful for you. If you are in the earlier years and you would like to check out my previous videos, I will have some previous videos in the end card, but also I try and keep everything organized in my playlist. So if you just go to my channel, you click playlist, there'll be one called Homeschooling or something with homeschool in it, and that's where all of my other reviews, tips, things like that will be for homeschooling content. And you can go check out grades 1 through 4 on there, and then this one will be grades 2 and 5 is what we just finished this year. I feel like this update is going to be kind of short and sweet, but I talk a lot, so we'll see how short it is. Make sure you have something yummy to drink, cozy if you like warm things, nice and cool if it's hot where you are. Just buckle up, get cozy, and let's chat about homeschooling. So if you don't know me, I have 2 kids. My name is Rainbow, hi. But I have a daughter who is just finishing up 5th grade and a son who just finished the 2nd grade. For reference, my kids are 8 and 11. For us, grades don't really matter that much in homeschool. I think in general, grades don't really matter in homeschool. We just kind of chose the grades that their age would be at, and we just started them in like kindergarten, grade 1 to kind of when we would have put them in school. That's kind of how we follow, but we just add and take out things according to their learning abilities at that time, if that makes sense. So your 11-year-old might be just finishing 6th grade. We, based on where my kids' birthdays are, we chose to put them in like on the slightly later end instead of having them in the earlier end of registering for school, because where we live in Canada, in Alberta, you still have to register with a school board. You can choose any school board within the entire province, but you still do register your child as being home educated. And for us, just because we know our children might choose to go to university or something like that, if they should choose, we put them in a very strategic time. I know they can skip grades and things like that, but it's different with homeschool, right? So we kind of put them in so they would be a certain age upon graduation if they graduated at the typical time and not early, so that they would get things like more government benefits and just like be better off in university college world. At a certain age, there's more benefits to being 18 versus 17 when you go in. So if you're like, my 8-year-old's in grade 3 and my 11-year-old's in grade 6 or whatever, it's just based on their birthdays and when we chose to put them in and register them for school. So hopefully that clears anything up if anybody had some questions, because I have gotten that before. Okay, so this is our first year using these grades. I'm going to first go over 2nd grade and then we'll go over 5th grade and what we thought about it. You can go see my previous video. I think I filmed a midway update this year. I'm not entirely sure though. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to ask some really common questions we get about this curriculum and a couple of other like what else we supplement with or like what else we use. Again, something I absolutely love about Blossom and Root curriculum is how flexible it is. And in flexibility, one, it's flexible for lifestyle. If you have a busier lifestyle, it's really easy to fit things around. If you prefer to be like more of a nature-based or like, you know, hands-on, you really like active learning, this curriculum has great options for that. And what I love about Blossom and Root is it has something for everybody to choose from. It has an option for people who prefer to stay at the table that day. It has an option for people who feel really crafty and like really like art and want to incorporate that. It has an option for people who love to be outside and get out and go adventure. It has an option for like the really, you know, science-oriented mind. And so there's options for like every kind of kid almost. And that makes it really, really easy to keep things fun and engaging every week because you can change it up. And also just like flexible for family life. Okay, I'm not gonna get too distracted. I'll answer again some common questions at the end. And that kind of like incorporates things I love about Blossom and Root. I should say, not sponsored at all by the curriculum. I will say what I like and what I don't like about each grade. I pay for this curriculum just like any other parent. It's just something I really like, and I'm just trying to help parents potentially choose a curriculum that might really work for them by sharing our experience with it. So let's start with science for grade 2. In a nutshell, we loved it. We had a bit of a weird year. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. Like, it wasn't the most academic steady year we've ever had, for a lot of reasons. But the science was so much fun. We loved it. It was just a really immersive year. Second grade science is very nature-based. In the terms of we're doing plants and learning about different types of plant ecosystems and learning about different types of like fungi and things like that, and like good plants and medicinal plants and harmful plants and poisonous plants. And I know it doesn't seem like you could stretch out plants for a whole year, but like they do such a good job of it, and it was fun and engaging. So fun for my son to like take out the microscope and look at different plant things. It was really fun for me because I'm a herbalist. I was able to kind of apply some of my herbalism skills to some of the units or my son was familiar with, so I could do like some side rabbit trails of my own with him, which was really fun. But there was lots of rabbit trails for this one and tons of things to just keep him engaged and excited, and we really loved that about it. I really don't have any complaints about second grade science. Because here's the thing, I did have complaints about first grade. You guys know that if you go watch my video, I talked about some things I didn't like, and then in the update, Blossom actually fixed those things. And so I updated you guys on how that was with the updated curriculum. I took a look at it after we'd finished, and it's way, way better. But second grade, I just didn't have that issue. It was so good, and like I feel like I've never done kindergarten yet, new baby, so we will be trying their kindergarten curriculum in a few years. But there's lots of like really early year Blossom and Root reviews. There's not a lot of older reviews on Blossom and Root because the older years are coming out year by year, so there's not a lot of people with older kids using this curriculum quite yet. I think there's more now, but if you search on YouTube and you're trying to find reviews for like grade 4 or 5, that's why you won't really find too many, and maybe you recognize my face from talking about it, but yeah, there's a ton of reviews for like the little years if you're looking for those. So Blossom and Root does something that you can buy just certain chunks of the curriculum, or you can buy the entire curriculum. I always go for the entire curriculum just because I love how much we get out of it. And Blossom and Root has something called book seeds, which are kind of like a Science LA mashup, and they are like little mini unit studies on a certain book. We actually didn't get to any of the book seeds except for one. We only did one book seed with my son in second grade because we had a really busy year. But what I love about this book seed option is that it creates so much extra content for really eager learners. And again, I'll talk about this at the end, but like I know so many people are like, will this work for my kid who's like really eager in this topic? Like, yes, Blossom and Root does an amazing job at making rabbit trails, what they call rabbit trails. So it's like extra content, extra work, extra whatever that you can choose to go down and do. It's very open-ended, so that if you are only wanting to do minimal, you can do minimal. But if you want to do extra, you have so much extra work to choose from. They have additional books, they have additional like recommendations for everything. So you could like have such a full you could make each lesson as full or as simple as you want to, and that is such an amazing, unique thing about this curriculum. So we didn't get to the book seeds, but the things we don't get to, I just save and we do at a later time. I'll talk about that more in a video I plan to do in the next week, and I'll kind of mention it again in the end, and you guys will see why. But yeah, we didn't get to a lot of our book seeds, but it's fine. The one we did was really fun and really, really enjoyable. I just, as the teacher, didn't have time to put together book seeds as well and teach those because, again, we just had a really swamped year. So let's transition over to LA. I never have complaints about nature study or any of the other editions in Blossom and Root. Blossom and Root has wicked nature study. I love it. It's so fun. And I feel like any grade, anybody could do nature studies because, again, nature studies is like so versatile that you could do it at any level and kind of adjust it to the age you're working with. But for language arts, the books were fantastic. You guys know I had issues with the first grade language arts list being kind of dry and very like old-timey, and that wasn't entertaining, but it turned out that they kind of heard that complaint and they fixed it. And so now, again, you can go watch my first grade review. Don't not buy it because I'm saying that like they fixed it and it's good now. But the second grade book list was great. Like I was really, really happy with it. The only recommendation I would make would be for one of the books if you don't like classic literature. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes so I don't miss anything. If your kid is not interested in classic literature, and by that I mean like if you were to pick up kind of like an old school book like classic Winnie the Pooh or something, and that language just would be missed on your kid, or if they're just not engaged with that kind of the way they spoke when that was written, or if you don't like classic literature, there are some classic literature books that for children that I just like want to cry when I read because it's very dull. So there is one book called The Wind in the Willows, a very classic story. If you don't like classic literature, this beautiful thing about Blossom and Root is they have quite a few options. If you don't want the like classic copy of The Wind in the Willows, I would recommend, they have this beautiful graphic novel now, and it's the whole novel, but there's beautiful pictures and it makes it a little more interesting, and the graphic novel is usually a great hit with most kids. So I definitely recommend the graphic novel if you don't want to read a drier classic story for The Wind in the Willows. Everything else is like pretty rich and entertaining and you don't really need to replace. But if you had that problem with the first grade curriculum before it was revised, I discovered that there was a graphic novel of The Wind in the Willows. I actually found it at my local library, and it was awesome, and my son has actually requested to take it out more than once this year just because he really likes it. There are a few books we missed, quite common for this curriculum just based on the breaks we take in the year. Sometimes we miss weeks or book studies, and the ones we miss are just something that my son and I are going to read together in the summer, just very casually. There are some books that I really was excited to read that we didn't get to. So that's my plan for any books we missed. But again, like my kids are pretty hungry learners and we still missed stuff. We still didn't do everything in the curriculum. So that's the beautiful thing. It's so full and you can always go back and do more later or add it to next year or whatever you want to do. Also, I should say another reason that it's easier for us to miss things is because I personally love read alouds. I think it's very, very important to read aloud to your children. So all of these LA books in both grades, I read aloud to my child. Sometimes they want to sit in on the other kids' read aloud, and we do that as a family, or sometimes I save it for like bedtime so that I can balance being able to read 2 books in one day to each child and stuff like that. But so just keep in mind that if you have like an avid reader and you're not interested in reading aloud, that would go a lot faster. Reading aloud does make it take a little bit longer. Like you take the full amount of time given to complete that story. Okay, so that's all I have to say about grade 2, and not a whole lot. I have no real complaints for the 2nd grade, except for like, we had bought the classic Wind in the Willows at first and it was like really dry, and we were like, oh, this is not for my son. Like, my daughter would have loved it. My daughter did love it and was like, why doesn't he like this? So we switched to the graphic novel and it was a great success. Okay, so let's move on to 5th grade, which just released last year. So this is my review of 5th grade. I don't think you'll probably find a lot of 5th grade reviews. So I love the older grades. Seriously, they do such a good job. I commend Blossom and Root because especially their LA is just so rich, and I love everything about it. It's so good. I love it. My daughter loves it, and that is the most important thing. My son loves it too, but like the older grades are just really, really immersive, and it just makes me excited. So let's talk about LA. Amazing book list. Again, like 4th grade, just like chef's kiss, amazing book list, as usual. We were so happy with the really rich stories, and more importantly, the diversity. Blossom and Root does an excellent job at diversifying their curriculum and their stories. So if that is really important to you, like it is important for us, you will love the LA list in the book list in the language arts portion of the curriculum. My daughter has so many favorite books. She discovers new books every single year because of this curriculum. There's a lot of other curriculums that have also, I'm doing another video, so like I'll mention the curriculum that has additional really good reading lists if you want to add, if your kid like just destroys books. My kid destroys books, but she has like her own thing that she's reading, like an entire she's reading the entire Warriors series, if you know, you know. So she reads like those in her spare time, and we read these books together. Yeah, we were both super satisfied with every single book. There's no complaints from me or her. Science, so much fun. We did 2 parts. The first part of the year was like oceanography, and the second part was astronomy, and it was like 2 really solid units for the parts of the year. So science was fun. I do have a small complaint about the grade 5 science. Again, I'm just like trying to make these reviews really honest. And this is not going to be a complaint for everybody. Again, we live in Canada. We live in Alberta. If you don't know where that is, we live in the prairies. We are landlocked. We're lucky to find a river over here. Like, we don't have bodies of water near us, which is fine. However, a lot of activities for like the hands-on exploring part in the first half of the year for the ocean unit would require visiting a body of water or an ocean, and it was kind of frustrating as a landlocked family to be like, oh, here's for the explorers, just go find a tide pool. And it's like, I wish I could go find a tide pool. Now, not to say that was like the only option. There are tons of options, but on days where maybe we didn't want to like do an activity or research something or like do more bookworky things, or maybe she wasn't in the mood for like the craft, or I had a hard time getting like an ocean material for that craft. That was the only frustrating thing, is like we don't live anywhere near an ocean. So some of the activities we were like, this feels like we can't do this as robustly as we might like to. So that is my only complaint. But it's only like, I don't know, maybe that's not it might not be a complaint for everybody. It was just for us. Like, it just made me wish that we could go explore a body of water. Like we hardly can find a pond near us. Like it's very difficult to find any body of water to like even pretend to explore like it was an ocean. But that was not every week, I should say, and it was just like, maybe that's not an issue for you. Maybe that's not a complaint that you would have, but it is just something I noticed that was a slightly frustrating thing, just for some weeks in the ocean study. But again, is that really like a huge complaint? Would that make me not buy the curriculum or like not use that science curriculum? No, because it's still fun and immersive and important to learn about those things, even though we don't live there. Part of me just wishes there was like another option for people who we're 20 hours away from the closest ocean, like a 20-hour drive plus. Like, it's just not happening. Part of me just wishes there was like maybe something else added for those of us who are like landlocked and can't get to it. Like I said, not the end of the world, but I feel like to keep these reviews really honest, I need to be honest and tell you guys like what maybe wasn't my favorite or something that bothered me in the curriculum, because no curriculum is absolutely perfect for everybody. The art, great, no complaints. Nature study, always stellar. I will reuse nature study all the time. For us, because again, we live in Canada, we have like winters that are like 10 months long. So some of the nature study we don't do all year long, because some of it is like, oh, spring buds are blooming now, and we're like at that week because that's the week we've gotten to, and it's like, go out and collect spring buds and stuff, and it's the end of February and we're like, there's 10 feet of snow outside. No, not really, but like everything is frozen. It's -40. There's no spring blooms until April. Like, that's not happening. So sometimes we'll save some of the nature study and just do it over the summer or over the spring. Gives us something to do that's still like kind of enriching their brains. And yeah, so that's an easy fix that we adjust because we live in a harsher climate. Okay, so that's pretty much all I have to say about grade 5-2. And now I'm just gonna quickly go into what we add and answer a couple of common questions that I get, or common remarks that I get in these review videos. So Blossom and Root does not have math. If you are American, you can now get River of Voices, which I believe is their history. Blossom and Root is a really great option because like you don't have to be American to use the curriculum, which is super important. Because for us, like, we can't use American history for our history curriculums, and we can't use American-based math because it's different math. So the fact that those aren't included is really nice because we don't have to worry about it. I don't have to pay for something extra that I don't want, and we just find our own. So we add our own math, we add our own social studies, we add any like language stuff that if you want to add a language, we add those. We add our own like skill-based activities, music, blah, 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 blah. We add that on our own, and like handwriting, things like that. That's what we add to our curriculum. This will vary for everybody. A lot of people are like, what kind of math do you use? Stuff like that. We use a lot of different math, but again, it's going to be different coming from me. If you're not Canadian, then the math I recommend might not be a good option for you. I feel like I'm still on the hunt for math that I love because I have not found great Canadian curriculum math. It's a tough struggle. I'm still searching. I'm still trying new things. We tried like 2 math curriculums this year and like they kind of flopped. So yeah, math is a tough one for me. If you're Canadian and you have a math something you love that doesn't cost $1 million, because I feel like I'm not gonna buy an entire curriculum and then buy just math that costs almost the exact same or more than my entire other curriculum. I'm not paying that much money. I refuse. I just don't want to. It's on principle alone. But yeah, if you guys want me to do a video talking about like exactly what math we've tried, or like Canadian options for social studies and things like that, because it is also really challenging to find really good Canadian social studies for homeschoolers that focus more on obviously Canada and Canadian history and Canadian current events. There's a lot of options, but a lot of times you have to like kind of piece your own together. Let me know if you guys want to see that. Now, I want to say here, if you're still watching, hopefully, there is a Blossom and Root sale coming up. Again, not affiliated, it's just coming up. I'm gonna buy my next curriculum. I have 3rd grade to buy, and then that's it. And then I don't have to buy curriculum for quite a while. But there is a sale coming up that is 30% off everything in their store, August 1st through September 15th. So if you're planning to buy curriculum or looking into it, you can totally hold off and get that 30% off. It's definitely worth it, especially if you're buying more than one curriculum. Just a couple of questions I normally get very commonly in these review videos I teach 2 separate grades. A lot of people are like, hey, can I use the 2nd grade for several of my children? Yes, you absolutely can. Blossom and Root is very adaptable, which means you can adjust it as needed. You can add on more for an older child, add on like deeper, richer kind of topics and lighten the load for a younger child. If you have a kid that is academically ahead and you're like, will Blossom and Root work for them? Absolutely, because of all of the extra content. If it can work for several kids, like I could technically use 1 grade, 1 level for like both my kids, and they would both get an enriched education. You can add or take away as much as you want, and they have tons of resources, which is just so awesome. So if you're like, my 1st grader, 2nd grader, 5th grader is really advanced, will this work for them? Yeah, absolutely, because there's like the main book list. Let's say for if you have a really avid reader, there's the main book list, and then there's like 2 pages of additional books that you can add to the curriculum if you want. Plus you can pull from other areas. I'm sure your kid is probably having their own personal reading too. It doesn't all need to be school-based. But yeah, the beauty of this curriculum is you can add as much as you want, or do the minimal amount if that's what suits you best. Nothing is right or wrong. It's totally great. You will have to add your own math, and you will have to add your own history. However, they do provide the history called River of Voices now for American people, if you choose to use that. I've heard it's good for Americans. But yes, there is a Facebook group called Blossom and Root Families, something like that, where people who use the curriculum can chat, ask questions, talk about their experience, what they like, and you'll see a whole bunch of people doing it differently. There are people who do it like me, who are actively teaching several grades at once, or there are people who are like, that's too much for me. I'm going to teach this set of kids this grade together, and I'm going to teach this set of kids this grade together, or whatever. And that works for them really well, and they're able to like still get their kids the level of education that they would like for each kid. So hopefully that makes sense. I get a lot of questions about like, oh, my kid struggles in this department. Is it going to be too hard? My kid's super advanced in this department. Is that going to be too easy? But like, I just don't think people understand how adaptable this curriculum is. They give you so many options, so you can choose how easy or hard it is for your child. And there's so many rabbit holes. Like, it's difficult to do the entire curriculum at once. Like, there's so much you could do that like some people take like a year and a half to get through just the entire curriculum or longer, because it's just so rich. It's so full that you're not going to run out of stuff to do. I don't think so. It'd be really difficult to run out of stuff, especially if you're adding on your own things. Like if you're adding on additional art or like language or skill building activities in your school day, like you're going to be full. I personally just teach the 2 grades because my kids are 3.5 years apart. Again, like I don't personally think that would suit my children to be teaching like 2nd grade to both or 5th grade to both. Like it just doesn't work for our family, so I choose to teach 2. Some people ask if that's really difficult to teach 2 grades, like how do you manage that? But my oldest can kind of do a lot on her own, because she can read through. This curriculum is made so that it's really easy to read through for the child if they're at that level, where they can like read through their list of like things that they need to do that week, and they can like check them off as they go. They can kind of like get through their task list and really like kind of self work through this curriculum if they want to. And that way, for me, I usually like explain the lesson and I set her up and she goes to town, and then I can be more one-on-one with my youngest who needs maybe more instruction or just a little more, has more questions more frequently and things like that. So it's actually not that difficult for me that I find, working on 2. I just keep them on the same week. So like we do week 1, we do week 2, we do week 3, and that way it's like not chaos. Sometimes my kids will be like, I want to do that nature study too, and we'll do it together, or we'll just do like 2 in a week, and I let them cross over if they want. They can be a little bit Like my son especially, like it's probably an 8-year-old thing too, it's like a little possessive over like his work, where like he just really loves having his own grade and his own stuff, and it's like separate from his sister. He likes that. And I think my daughter does too, but she just like is older, so she cares less. Like if her brother wants to listen in on something, she's like, I don't care. Whereas he's just a little more like, this is my school, my stuff. No. That's my kind of year in review. If you have questions, please drop them below. Now that I'm feeling better, I will be much quicker to answer them. I'm starting to get a lot of like questions on videos from last year. So if there's a video you would like to see, please just throw it in the comments below. I will add it to my list of filming and things to talk about. I have no problem. I'm here to help. So if there's something I could help with or explain more thoroughly, I am happy to do so. So yeah, I'm gonna stop talking at you because it's been a while. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful for you. Grades 2 and 5, Blossom the Root. And that's what I was gonna say. I mentioned a little bit earlier that next year is gonna be a little bit different. So they actually had to postpone releasing grade 6. My daughter is at the same age of the levels releasing. So she was about to go into grade 5 when grade 5 was released. She was like, it was released as she needed it. And this year they had to postpone releasing grade 6. So we are without curriculum for my daughter. So I have a plan in place of what I'm gonna do. I talked to other Blossom and Root families. I was like, is anybody else in this boat? And I had a lot of ideas. So I'm gonna be filming a video for anybody else who loves Blossom and Root and also needs the 6th grade curriculum and is gonna have to kind of go out on their own. I'm gonna explain to you guys exactly what we're doing for that and what the plan is, so that hopefully that will help you guys. I'm gonna release that like soon, like in the next couple weeks, so that if you're planning and trying to work that out, there's lots of time and we have the whole summer to plan and figure out what works best for you. But I just wanna like help anybody else in that situation. If you're not there yet, they will be releasing the 6th grade later. The reason for the delay is that River of Voices, the history lesson they're putting in, has been taking a lot of effort. It's just like 1 or 2 moms working on this, just like a normal homeschooling mom. She makes beautiful curriculum. Oh, I'm so grateful. But it's a lot of work, you guys. Like, if you've ever done your own curriculum, it is so much work. I don't know how this lady does it. Amazing. But adding the history really put a ton on her plate. She's also homeschooling her own children at the same time. So they really, 6th grade is getting up there. It needs to be really rich. It needs to be ready for people who are, you know, doing junior high, or I guess middle school if you're American. It just needs to hit certain markers, right? And it's intimidating to create those older grades and those older grade curriculums. They want to be competing with other curriculums. They want to be chosen for having a rich curriculum just like the younger grades. So I understand why there was a delay. She felt that if she released it too soon, it would be rushed and maybe not the best. So they chose to delay it so they'd have longer to work on it, which I totally respect and I understand and I appreciate. I'm just sad. So I will update you guys on what we plan to do, but I'm gonna stop talking, you guys, because I gotta go, and we'll see you in my next one. Bye. Thanks for watching.